Looking back at the 2015 MLB Draft, the top of the board was littered with absolute stars in the making. Dansby Swanson went first overall, won a World Series, and signed a huge deal with the Cubs this past offseason. Alex Bregman has a couple rings on his mantle for Houston and finished runner-up in an MVP vote. His teammate Kyle Tucker got picked 3 selections later and could be on his way to an MVP of his own. Andrew Benintendi got a big contract from the White Sox, and Ian Happ, who rounds out the top 10 of this draft, will surely get his this coming offseason. They have 6 All-Star nods, 4 Gold Gloves, and 5 World Series rings between them. This is an example of a fantastic top end of a draft class, and it goes beyond those top 5 guys with later first round selections like Walker Buehler, Austin Riley, and Ke'Bryan Hayes. This is a first round done right. Today though, we're going to go 1 year beyond this class and talk about the opposite end of things. It's safe to call the 2016 MLB Draft one of the most confusing of all time, with a disastrous first round followed by some of the best hidden gems ever in the rounds that followed. 8 All-Star players, a Rookie of the Year, and multiple Cy Young winners, and yet none of those players were selected in the first round. It's essentially the anti-draft, and nearly a decade later, it's incredibly hard to wrap your head around. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you subscribe and leave a like on this video. Also, comment a video topic that you want me to try out next. Now, I don't usually like doing negative video topics, but to do this kind of video, you have to talk about the busts. And if you're going to tell the story of this draft, you have to start at the top with the #1 overall pick, Mickey Moniak. If you're not sure who this is, I can't say I blame you, but when he was an amateur player, the hype was certainly real. Moniak won Baseball America's High School Player of the Year award in 2016 when he hit .476 with a .961 slugging percentage as a senior in high school. He committed to UCLA, but the Phillies went ahead and took him first overall and tacked on a $6.1 million signing bonus on top of that. Understandably, Moniak accepted. Moniak performed well at rookie ball and was promoted by next year, but things never really went smoothly for him again. He played in over 110 games 3 years in a row from single A to double A, so he was always healthy, but he never posted an OPS above 750. His defense was world-class, but it'd take him 4 years to get a call-up in 2020. In 47 MLB games he played with the Phillies since, he failed to impress much at all, batting .129 and striking out nearly 40% of the time. Seeing him as an offensive liability with defense not good enough to offset that, the Phillies cut bait midway through last season, trading him to the Angels for Noah Syndergaard. Hopefully Moniak can find a way into some playing time in LA somewhat soon, as he is just 25 years old and still has plenty of time to change the narrative of his career. The talent is still there, but for now, this #1 overall pick is looking like a bust. Things didn't improve much from there with Nick Senzel, who went #2 overall to the Cincinnati Reds after being projected as the safest top pick in this draft. He raked in the minors, batting over 300 at every level, but he ran into a hitch with a torn ligament in his right index finger right before he was going to get called up. This was just the beginning of Senzel's woes with injury, which to this day he still hasn't overcome. Since then, Senzel has suffered a sprained ankle, a torn labrum, and left knee inflammation that has limited him to just 273 games since making his debut in 2019. He hasn't played yet this season, landing on the IL to start 2023. When he has played, Senzel hasn't impressed thus far, batting .240 with a 73 OPS+. He's still one of the faster players in the game, but it's clear that injuries have taken their toll on his skill set. He'll turn 28 years old this year, and while the Reds have room to play him certainly, they have some tough decisions ahead of them soon. But perhaps the most perplexing of this trio at the top is the man selected 3rd overall by the Braves, starting pitcher Ian Anderson. Another player who skipped college ball in this draft, he ascended steadily through the minors, getting called up just in time for the 2020 Braves' run to the NLCS. He impressed in 6 starts in the shortened season, so much so that Atlanta gave him the ball in 4 playoff starts that year. He responded with 15 straight shutout innings in his first 3 starts against the Reds, Marlins, and Dodgers, striking out 22 and walking just 8 batters. He continued the upward trend in 2021. In his first full season, he was incredibly reliable, tossing 24 starts with a 3.58 ERA for an Atlanta team that would go all the way that season. He was a stud on their playoff run too, with a 1.59 ERA and 17 postseason innings across 4 starts, including 5 no-hit innings against the Astros in the World Series. Though his walk rates and peripherals were concerning, the future looked really bright for Ian Anderson as a steady presence in Atlanta's starting 5. That's what's made his rapid downfall all the more confusing. Anderson saw his spin rates continue to trend downward, as well as a spike in both his walk rate and batting average on ball and play rate. In 2022, it was a nightmare season. He was demoted in August, at the time leading all pitchers with 54 walks issued in 111 innings and an ERA of 5. He couldn't contain the long ball or his control issues and has resided in the minor leagues since. Per the recording of this video, he allowed 6 runs in 2/3 of an inning, so it doesn't look like he'll be back anytime soon. Here's hoping he can figure something out, as the Braves could certainly benefit from adding one more arm to their already formidable rotation rotation. The top 3 picks of the 2016 draft get a lot of attention for the wrong reasons, but in all honesty, this whole first round of picks is a bit of a disaster. Let's go to number 4. The Rockies selected starting pitcher Riley Pint, who has yet to make the major leagues. The pitcher has struggled mightily with control issues after skipping college ball and even retired at one point in 2021. He came back and is now a reliever, which seems to be a better role, but he isn't ranked on the Rockies' top 30 prospects list, which is definitely a concern. He currently resides in AAA on the Rockies' 40-man roster, so we should see him this season. Corey Ray went 5th overall to the Milwaukee Brewers and has had just 3 plate appearances in the major leagues. He profiles mostly as a defensive specialist and base running threat with 89 swipes in 490 minor league games. He's another guy that doesn't rank highly on his team's prospect list, and it certainly doesn't help that the Brewers' top 4 prospects are also all outfielders like Ray. With his 2022 season in AAA being his most lackluster, it's hard to believe we see him soon in Milwaukee. Picks 6 through 9 were all pitchers, each with varying results so far. AJ Puk is a nice breath of fresh air from the disappointment of the top 5. He won the 2015 College World Series with the Gators and found some early success in the big leagues with the A's. At 6'7", this dude is an absolute monster of a lefty, and even after going through shoulder surgery, Puk was able to bounce back. He was stellar for the A's in 2022 as a reliever and is now the closer for the Miami Marlins. Speaking of the fish, they took Braxton Garrett with the 7th pick, and he's been fine. He's another arm in their plentiful selection of pitchers, and he had a pretty impressive 2022 season as a starter. He was definitely the 6th man of the rotation depth chart, with him bouncing between AAA and MLB, but in his opportunities, he did pretty well. Now he's a full-time member of the bullpen for the 2023 season, so you could say this pick is working out, especially when you consider it against some of the other guys we've talked about so far. And you can argue that the next pick is maybe the most successful of anyone in the standard first round here, and that's Cal Quantrill. Was that the name you were expecting? I don't blame you if it wasn't. This isn't to rag on Cal, he's actually been a really steady piece for a good Guardians team the past couple seasons. He's one of the best soft contact pitchers in the game right now, with his 19.1% rate being in the top 10 since 2021. Behind Bieber and McKenzie, he's been the 3rd leg of that rotation and has certainly lived up to expectations so far. In over 300 innings, he has a 3.16 ERA and a whip below 1.2. But Quantrill is essentially the last good player you can find in the first round of this draft. Everyone else has either shown flashes of greatness, has battled injuries, or hasn't even shown face in the big leagues yet. Of the 41 picks in the first round this year, 8 of them haven't made it to the majors, and 12 of them have made it but recorded negative wins above replacement. Only 1 player has registered a wins above replacement value of at least 7 in their career to this point, and that would be Dodgers catcher Will Smith. Another player worth mentioning is Kyle Lewis, who went 11th overall to the Seattle Mariners. He won American League Rookie of the Year in 2020, which is kind of a weird year, but it's still worth mentioning. He hit 11 home runs in the 60-game season with a 124 OPS plus, while also playing Gold Glove caliber defense in center field. But the 58 games he played that year are still the most he's played in a season. He battled a torn meniscus in 2021 and still has knee problems to this day, watching his sprint speed plummet in the field. It's hard to say if he can ever be the same player again. Gavin Lux, who went 20th overall to the Dodgers, had a really good chance to break out this year before tearing his ACL in spring training. He profiled as one of the most patient hitters in baseball in 2022, as well as one of the fastest and most sure-handed with his glove. He won't be back until next season, but he still has a chance to be great. And yeah, after that, it's kind of a hodgepodge of nothingness, as Dennis Eckersley once called the Pirates.
You talk about a no-name lineup. There's no team like this.
He has gone about rebuilding their farm system.
Yeah, tell me they have a great farm system. Tell me they do. That's what they're doing, I assume.
Trying.
This is a hodgepodge of nothingness.
Matt Manning and Detroit have not worked out. The Mets traded away Justin Dunn and Anthony Kay. Dane Dunning got traded twice. Carter Kieboom turned into a total bust for the Nationals, and Will Craig is largely responsible for this all-time lowlight for the Pirates.
Oh my goodness! Wow! You gotta be kidding me! You've gotta be kidding me! They stole a run! You have gotta be kidding me! Javi Baez! What is Will Craig thinking about here? Just take the ball to first base.
In short, it's a really tough first-round class to scroll through, but the thing is, it gets weirdly very good. You have to go just 15 picks after the first round ends to start finding some really good players. The Giants discovered Brian Reynolds with the 59th overall pick, trading him to the Pirates later on for Andrew McCutchen. He's blossomed into one of the best all-around hitting center fielders in the game right now, and has made an all-star team, and Pittsburgh has responded by refusing to pay him what he's worth, which is always super cool. In 493 games, he has a 127 career OPS plus with 74 home runs. 4 selections after that, the Mets scooped up first baseman Peter Alonso, who is now known as Pete Alonso. All he did was win 2019 Rookie of the Year in the National League and break the rookie home run record with 53 in his first season. He led the majors in RBIs last season and has made 2 All-Star teams in his short career so far, not to mention 2 home run derby wins. He's clubbed 146 bombs in his first 4 seasons, placing him 7th all-time on the Mets home run list already. It doesn't stop there either. 2 picks after that, the Blue Jays snagged shortstop Bo Bichette. That's 3 All-Star players in the span of 7 picks, all of whom couldn't crack the first round somehow. He had some growing pains in the field, but Bo has led the American League in hits in back-to-back seasons with over 20 home runs and an OPS plus 20% better than league average in both of those seasons. The third round might be just as good too. Sean Murphy went 83rd overall to the Oakland A's. He's a defensive wizard behind the dish, and I'd be shocked if he wasn't an All-Star for the Braves at some point soon after inking that nice contract extension. Jesus Luzardo, Dustin May, and Zach Gallen all went in the late end of the third round and are sneakily some of the best pitchers in the National League currently, all of whom receiving love as a dark horse Cy Young pick for this year. But you want to know what's better than a dark horse Cy Young pick? An actual Cy Young winner, which is exactly what 4th rounder Corbin Burns accomplished back in 2021. The Brewers stole him with pick number 111, which is insanity. And he wasn't even the only Cy Young in this round either. Shane Bieber went to the Cleveland Guardians just 11 picks later and ended up winning the 2020 AL Cy Young. We also should show some love to the All-Stars Tony Gonsolin and Santiago Espinal, who were stolen in the 9th round and 10th round respectively. So what can we make of all this? A couple things. One, the MLB Draft is simply not like other sports. With uneven playing fields, longer tenures of development in the minors, and freak injuries, baseball prospects might be the hardest to project of any sport. And that leads to point 2. You can really see what teams are scouting the best from the examples of this draft. The Dodgers, a great developmental team, had probably the best 2 picks of the first round and snagged Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin later on. Cleveland and Milwaukee, 2 small market teams, found Cy Youngs in the 4th round. Scouting matters, and the teams that pour resources and funds into those departments reap the benefits. But in general, drafts are so sporadic. Certain classes have bona fide stud players that everyone and their mother knows will be a star, and other groups are more of a blurred collection of either risk or potential. For me, this 2016 draft might be the strangest of the past decade for both the heavy talent in the back end and the utter disappointment at the top. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.